Stephen A., to that point, with Derek Carr specifically, he's now 0-3 in career games where temperatures are 40 or below. But let's focus on that in the MVP conversation, who Carr has been a part of all season. He struggled in the loss against Oakland, obviously throwing for just 117 yards on 41 attempts. That's the second fewest pass yards in NFL history by a quarterback who attempted at least 40 passes. He was 2 of 17 on passes thrown more than 5 yards. So Carr's total QBR last night was 9.7, and his 2 lowest QBRs this season were both against the Chiefs. You can see it right there. Here's Carr after the game.
It was definitely a bad night. There's no getting around that. I hate to have the bad night come on this one, right? Out of all the games that we've had, but obviously we didn't do enough. We all took turns, I feel very responsible for that because as the leader of the offense and the team, I feel sick to my stomach, when we put something like that out there on film, and it hurts. I can promise you that. I put too much time into this to go and do something like that.
Max, did last night's game affect Carr's chances of winning the MVP?
It affected them. I mean, it's not over. It's Dak's to lose, but I thought that before the game. I think Dak's had a better season than Derek Carr. And for those who talk about Dak's offensive line and also the presence of Ezekiel Elliott, I can point to the offensive line on the Raiders and the presence of some excellent receiver. I mean, just an excellent receiving core, arguably the best in the league. So I already thought Dak was the front runner. But now I think there should be a consensus that it's his to lose. And please, with the Tom Brady stuff, Dak Prescott has a higher QBR than Tom Brady, period, and Tom Brady's missed 4 games. That's a ridiculous argument. But Derek Carr could still win it. Let's see what happens with Dak the rest of the way. He is a rookie quarterback. Last night was it's not that it somehow diminishes Derek Carr's season. I still felt like the Raiders were dangerous late in that game, and they were. Because of the presence of Derek Carr. He's a special talent, having a special year. But when you start talking MVP, you got to split hairs. And right now, it's Dak's to lose.
Couple of things. I really want Max Kellerman to stop being so disrespectful to Tom Brady, who basically has a rating of 113, a QBR of 89. He's got 19 touchdowns, just 1 interception, and is completing nearly 69% of his passes. Let's not act like, oh my goodness, he doesn't belong in the conversation. That's just disrespectful to arguably the greatest quarterback of this generation. Zip it. Stop it. Stop doing that, okay? That's number one. Number two, when we get to Derek Carr, let's be clear about something here. The race is not over, but he looks bad right now. And here's why he looks bad. Because of what he's done the last 2 games. He completed 54% of his passes in that comeback win over Buffalo. Last night obviously was an awful night, as he admitted. He does have 3 games left. One's against Andrew Luck. All right, first it's against Phillip Rivers. Then it's against Andrew Luck. Then it's against that Denver defense. He shows up and plays big time in those last 3 games. And Oakland wins all 3 games. Then you're talking about a dude that's going to have 13 wins on the season. I don't think you can ignore that. So it's not over by any stretch. But the fact is that he's going to have to show up in an elite fashion in order to capture league MVP honors. It's not because of last night. It's because of the last 2 games combined with the 3 games to go and the way the other guys in the league competing with him for that MVP trophy have been playing.
Let me ask you something. I agree that the team's record helps or hurts, has an effect on MVP chances. If he wins 13 games, and I don't know that he will, but let's say he did.
I think he'll win 12.
Is that going to be more or fewer? Okay, 12. Is that going to be more or fewer than Dak likely?
Fewer.
So Dak's going to have a higher QBR, likely, more wins on a better team. It seems to me that Dak's the MVP, and as for Tom Brady, because he missed those 4 games, there's no way he can have 13 wins, and he's lost the game, and his QBR is lower than Dak's. I don't see how he's in the conversation. Let's compare apples to apples here. Carr and Dak have played all the games.
Well, first of all, Brady could end up with 11 wins. That's number one. Because that's number one. Number 2, he could end up with 30-plus touchdowns. He could also end up, still throwing 1 or 2 interceptions on the season with a QBR near the 90s and a rating of over 113. That's number 1. Number 2, he can end up with the number 1 seed in the AFC. Number 3, and more importantly, when we compare Derek Carr to Dak, we can look at Dak having more wins, but we can look at relatively several pedestrian games on his part where he didn't make mistakes, but he didn't knock your socks off. We can look at the explosive play of Ezekiel Elliott. We can look at the praise that Ezekiel Elliott has been receiving, because you have a situation, which is something we'll talk about later, where you have an owner that might be compromising his quarterback because he keeps talking about his old quarterback who's not a reserve. I know that. I'm going to get there. But the point is, not only do you have that, you have a Hall of Famer who's the all-time leading rusher in NFL history talking about how much he loves what Ezekiel Elliott is doing. So you have all of these supplementary storylines to piggyback off of, to respect Dak, but also diminish what he has done, which could affect Carr in a positive manner in an MVP way.
Yes, Carr could still, that's why it's Dak's to lose, but Carr could still easily win it. Because when all is said and done, I do not believe Brady will have the highest QBR and everything. He doesn't right now, Dak does. And plus, even if he did, it would have to be by such a margin to make up for the fact that he missed 25% of the season. He's out. I'm just talking about not how the voters are going to vote. I'm talking about a rational approach to awarding MVP. So when you talk about Dak and why he might not win it, it's always this kind of like nonsense, bad MVP voters who aren't very smart type stuff. It's like, well, Ezekiel Elliott's on the team, so they'll split the vote. Okay, that's the reality, but why should that affect Dak? Why does that mean he's not the MVP? Or he's a rookie. He has time. Derek Carr's been in the league a couple years. He's paid more dues. Or Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time, which is true. Let's give it to him. But none of those are actually good MVP arguments. When you look at the actual argument for MVP, at this moment, it's Dak Prescott. There is no other person to put in that number 1 spot. He can still lose it. Let's see what happens the rest of the way. I hope he does lose it. I hope the Giants beat him this weekend. We'll see.
Well, he could still lose it, but he should be number 1 on the list. But at the same time, he is number 1 on the list. But then again, he's not. You all over the damn place. At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, they got 4 games. They got 4 games. No, you're not. They got 4 games to play. We will see what Dak Prescott does. But I'm not going to sit up there and rule out Tom Brady. And let's not forget the storyline. Hold on, Molly.
I will be very clear. Wait, Molly,
hold on,
I'll be very clear.
Hold on, the storyline. Hold on, the storyline. The NFL. You forgot about this, Max. There are people out there that want to see Tom Brady get that NFL MVP because of Deflategate, and they also want to see him win the Super Bowl, so Goodell has to hand him that trophy. They want to see that stuff. Don't forget that. That might influence stuff, too.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I just want to be very clear about this, and Stephen A. accused me of not being clear. At this moment, Dak Prescott deserves the MVP, period. Not all of the voters are very smart, so he might not get it, even if it were awarded today.
We'll find out how you feel Monday morning. We'll find out how you feel Monday morning.
Heard you crystal clear there, Max. This MVP conversation is to be continued, gentlemen. But we posted this question on Twitter a little earlier, asking if you all think Carr's MVP hopes are over, and 51% of you are keeping hope alive. 49% said yes, they are. First take, just getting started. Do you feel like the Raiders got exposed?
No, I do not. I do not feel like they got exposed, because I'm going to take a few things into consideration. Clearly, Derek Carr didn't have the best game. It didn't help that Amari Cooper, Crabtree, and the rest of the crew couldn't get open against Peters, Berry, and the Kansas City Chiefs secondary. Major props to Kansas City's defense. They're 20-3 in their last 23 games with a 197-point differential. They have been absolutely sensational. Andy Reid is doing a phenomenal job. But the reason why I'm going to say that the Raiders weren't necessarily exposed, it's going to sound like an excuse. I concede that, because this is football and there are conditions that people definitely have to live with. But damn it, it matters. We're human beings. We've got blood sifting through our veins. We're not robots. These kind of things happen. It has a negative effect on you. I'm talking about that freezing temperature, that cold weather. About 20 degrees last night. Lord knows how it felt with that wind chill factor. It was cold out there. It certainly, even though it gets cold in Northern California, not to this degree as far as I'm concerned. There were inclement weather, I believe, played a role. I believe it sort of threw off the Oakland Raiders and their high-powered offense a little bit. There was a 3 turnover differential differential for crying out loud. Kansas City uncharacteristically turned over the football. The Oakland Raiders offense that I know and love would have taken better advantage of that had the conditions been better, although they were held to 10 points early in the season against Kansas City. That is beside the point. I think they would have showed up better last night. I think they would have performed better had it not been for those freezing temperatures, which I clearly did not take into consideration before predicting the outcome of this game. I'm going to give the Raiders a mulligan here because I don't believe that Crabtree and Cooper and all of these boys would have had receiving yards in the 20s. I don't believe that Derek Carr would throw for just 117 yards. I don't care what secondary you're going against. I'm going to give the Raiders somewhat of a pass on this because I think inclement weather compromised their performance, Max. That's what I believe.
The Raiders got exposed. They got exposed as legit, as did the Chiefs. Those are two legit teams, and neither one of them as good as the Patriots, and anyone who watched that game last night knows that. The Raiders are legit because on the road, in a very tough place to play, Arrowhead, maybe the toughest in the NFL, in bad weather, in a hostile environment, game came down to the wire. So the Raiders are real. I thought they would lose that game. The Chiefs were favored to win. The Chiefs beat them earlier in the season. And so the Raiders doing that, having that game come down to the wire when the defense is doing a number on Derek Carr and all those other factors are in play, and you've won so many games already this year, that kind of loss is the kind of loss you can live with. You're going to lose some games throughout the course of a season. And almost every team ever, more than one. So that's the Raiders. The Chiefs are onto something. Andy Reid, a great coach, has done I mean, you look at the 20-3 mark that you referenced, Stephen A., that I was talking about yesterday. What's the key throughout that time? The turnover differential. Everything else cancels. Everything else in football is noise. It's not that your offensive line, the other team's secondary, the running game, all those kind of things aren't significant. They are significant. But if you have a +2 turnover differential, you're going to win more than 2/3 of the time. That's the determining factor. And generally, a team with a high turnover differential, like the Chiefs, you say, well, they're going to regress to the mean, meaning some of that's luck. They got to come back to the pack a little bit, and when they do, they'll start to lose. But I don't think it is luck with the Chiefs. They're leading the league in picks over that time. They're also leading the league in lowest opponent's QBR over that time. That's just a really good Andy Reid defense. So, were the Raiders exposed against them in that environment, having the game come down to the wire where all these things are going right for the Chiefs? No, they weren't. The Raiders are legit. And what about the Chiefs? They're legit. But we saw what we saw last night. Neither one of them is as good as the New England Patriots right now.
Well, I'm not willing to go that far. I'm not willing to go that far because I think that the New England Patriots took a step back losing Gronkowski. I'm not saying that it's definitive that anybody's better than them, but I do think that we have to give the Chiefs some consideration along with that of the Oakland Raiders. Again, I think the inclement weather, the freezing temperatures last night at Arrowhead Stadium had something to do with curtailing the performance that I anticipated the Oakland Raiders would put forth. In the case of the Kansas City Chiefs, this is a team that's got the 7th ranked defense, okay? Even though it would say they're 29th against the rush, they're 27th against the pass, I think it's a misnomer. I think they find a way to make plays. I think that defense is something to behold. With Houston, with Ali, with Peters, with Berry, and the crew, I think they can make some noise. The problem is it comes down to what Alex Smith can do for you. The one thing that I would say is this, whether it's Spencer Ware running out of the backfield, this kid, Tyreek Hill, punt return, also caught a touchdown. This kid is a noisemaker. He can make some things happen, particularly with his speed. I don't think we saw that element on the Kansas City Chiefs last year. You know, you combine that with Jeremy Macklin's return, because if you've got him come playoff time, along with the Hill, along with some semblance of a running game, and a guy like Alex Smith, who isn't prone to make mistakes, last night notwithstanding, I definitely think you got a reason to worry about the Kansas City Chiefs. Here's what we have to keep our eyes on about the Kansas City Chiefs moving forward. If they get home field advantage, now those temperatures and that environment that you saw last night, it's not going anywhere. And it's something that would work to their advantage. You have to remember that you have a lot of people out there who believe that Bill Belichick cost the New England Patriots a Super Bowl championship because he wasn't willing to put the pedal to the metal as the season waned and ultimately made some questionable decisions where he lost a couple of games late in the season last year, 1 or 2 games. So as a result of that, New England lost home field advantage and then had to go on the road, in the AFC Championship game, and then that what happened ended up happening. You got to keep your eyes on that with New England now, because a lot of times we look at the New England Patriots and we get so caught up in what we see from them over the course of a regular season game that what we forget is that at Foxborough, they're lethal, and that's where they usually are because they're so exceptional during the regular season. When they go on the road, what exactly is it that they do? So while we're willing to sit up there and say, all right, Oakland, their defense is suspect, even though their offense is high-powered. Kansas City, Alex Smith is basically a game manager, and they're a really good team, but can they have that dude that can take them over the hump? What we have not taken into consideration is what if one of those teams forces New England to have to come on the road again in a playoff game, particularly an AFC Championship game?
I mean, Arrowhead, if anyone has to play the Chiefs at Arrowhead, that's a tall order. But I think if you like the Chiefs, or Chiefs fans, I'm talking to you, if you like your team's chances, part of that is the trajectory of the teams that you can assume right now. One team is not going to have Gronk. The other team is getting Jamal Charles back. Right? So if you think that that can create a tipping point, yeah, maybe. But at this moment, what I saw last night, I saw a Raiders team where everything went wrong for them. They still had a shot. I saw a Chiefs team win the way they normally do. I don't think either one is as good as the Patriots. And I want to address the Alex Smith point quickly, Stephen A. Alex Smith is, in many respects, what you're looking for in a quarterback. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes generally, and he's not going to lose you the game. And he's mobile. He can really run. He reminds me, though, of Dak Prescott minus. He's a game manager, but where Prescott is big on third down, Prescott's like a hitter who with 2 strikes on him can still hit you the home run. Third down, you need a home run play. Dak can get you that home run play on third down and then also not make mistakes leading up to that point and then also use his legs if he has to. Alex Smith does a lot of those things except that thing you kind of need him to do most generally, which is something that Dak can do. And I think that's the difference between an MVP candidate and a quarterback who you wonder, is he good enough to win a Super Bowl?
Yeah, but what I'm seeing is Alex Smith step out a little bit extra. I saw a couple of big-time passes to Kelsey last night. I can't ignore that. And when I see that, and I see, more importantly, you got to remember, being with my Philadelphia roots, working for the Philadelphia Inquirer for 17 years, being there practically the entire time Andy Reid was coaching there for 13, 14 seasons or so. I've seen what this man does with quarterbacks. I see what this man can tend to do with an offense from time to time. And I'm telling you right now, what I'm seeing is Andy Reid opening Alex Smith up, allowing him to take more chances.
He's showing signs
Alex
of it.
Smith showing that capability. But it's still, as it pertains to the Raiders, again, to get back to the original question, I'm going to give them a pass last night because I thought those freezing temperatures hindered them. But what they also showed me is that the Raiders are going to find a way to figure that out. Because based on last night's loss, they're going to have to show up in inclement weather, possibly, whether it's Arrowhead or Foxborough, if they want to make some noise in the playoffs.
No question.